the kingdom of God and heal those who needed to be cured. The day was drawing to a close, and the 12 came to him and said, "Send the crowd away, so that they may go into the surrounding villages and countryside to lodge and get provisions, for we are here in a deserted place." But Jesus said to them, "You give them something to eat." And they said, "We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish. Unless we go and buy food for all these people ourselves," for there were about 5,000 who were gathered at the time. And Jesus said to his disciples, "Make the people sit down in groups of about 50 each." And they did so, and made them all sit down. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke them, and gave them to his disciples to set before the crowd. And all ate and were filled, and that was what was left over was gathered up, 12 baskets of broken pieces. And this is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
On the morning of August the 9th, 1945, at 11:02, the atomic bomb known as Fat Man detonated. The epicenter was the Urakami district, a place deeply symbolic for the Japanese Christians. Just 500 meters from ground zero stood the Urakami Cathedral, the largest Catholic church in East Asia at the time, and a spiritual home for a community that had endured centuries of persecution. At the time, many of the Christians were praying before the Blessed Sacrament, preparing for the upcoming Feast of the Assumption of Mary, just 6 days away, praying for peace, no doubt, when the bomb exploded. The blast incinerated the cathedral and killed everyone inside. The twin spires, once towering symbols of the resilience and faith, were reduced to rubble. Statues of saints were shattered, and the head of a wooden statue of Our Lady was found scorched and broken, later becoming a haunting icon of the tragedy. This devastation struck a community that had already suffered deeply. The Christians of Urakami were descendants of the Kakure Christian, the hidden Christians of Japan, who had practiced their faith in secret during Japan's 250 ban on Christianity. The infamous practice of fulie was introduced by the authorities, forcing Christians to publicly trample on the images of Christ crucified to signify their rejection of the faith. Those who refused were summarily executed. Martin Scorsese's famous film adaptation of the novel Silence by Endo Shusaku graphically captures the methods inflicted. They were horrific. After the ban was lifted in the late 19th century, the cathedral was built on the land where their ancestors had been executed. The bombing of Nagasaki challenged the Christian survivors, but with faith and hope, the Urakami Cathedral was reconstructed in 1959. And the charred head of Mary now rests in the rebuilt church as a silent reminder and a silent witness to both the suffering and the endurance of the Christians. That was the bomb. Inseparably, and now for the book, inseparably linked to the dropping of the bomb, the story of Dr. Nagai and his wife stands clearly as a wonderful example. And Father Paul Glynn, SM, wrote the book, and I'm sure many of you have read it already. It's worth reading again at this time. His book tells the extraordinary true story of Dr. Takashi Nagai, army doctor, a pioneering radiologist, philosopher, and convert to Catholicism who survived the atomic bomb. Born into a Shinto family, Nagai's spiritual journey led him through atheism and eventually to a profound Catholic faith, influenced by his wife Midori, and the writings of Blaise Pascal. On August the 9th, 1945, Dr. Nagai was working, rather ironically, at the radiology department of the Nagasaki Medical College Hospital. He had stayed at the hospital the night before, caring for patients. His wife at home, not far from the cathedral. Their 2 children safe in the mountains with many other children who were taken there because of the bombing that had been taking place for many months. Although wounded by the bomb, he stayed at the hospital to treat the survivors and the dying. Late in the afternoon, he walked to his home, or to where it was, only to discover the charred remains of his wife still clutching her rosaries. Despite his own terminal leukemia, caused by years of radiation exposure, Nagai devoted his final years to comforting survivors, writing spiritual reflections, and rebuilding hope in a devastated city. Nagai became a national symbol of resilience and peace. Paul McGuinn's biography captures not only Nagai's personal transformation, but also the soul of a city that found grace amid the ruins. And now, the bell. Professor James L. Nolan, a sociologist at William College and grandson of a doctor who worked on the Manhattan Project, and you'll remember the project in New Mexico building the first atomic bombs. While researching his book, Atomic Doctors, Nolan visited Nagasaki and stood before the Urakami Cathedral. There he learned that only one of the cathedral's twin bells had survived the bombing. The South Tower bell, found buried in the rubble and later restored to service, but the North Tower bell was obliterated. Moved by this absence and by the resilience of the Nagasaki Catholic community, Nolan initiated the Nagasaki Bell Project, a gesture of healing across generations and nations. With the support of American Catholics and the blessing of the Archbishop of Nagasaki, a new bronze bell was cast in the United States to match the original. It weighs 224 kilos. The new bell arrived in Nagasaki in May of this year and will be installed in the North Tower of the cathedral in mid-July. And on August the 9th, 2025 this year, at exactly 11:02, the moment the bomb fell 80 years earlier, both bells will ring together for the first time since 1945, a sound not heard in 8 decades. The event, by the way, will be streamlined globally, and rightly so, because it's a bell of joy and a bell of warning. So allowing the people of the world to witness this act of remembrance and reconciliation. Paul's book, A Song for Nagasaki, and I have a copy here, and hundreds of thousands of this book have been sold. It's extraordinary. And Paul, not only is a writer and a spiritual guru, he's also an entrepreneur. And so he had it published himself. So he's able to sell it for $10. And I'm going to sell it for $10 next week. And you'll probably get a raspberry cupcake with it. And that'll be free. But this, all the money, Paul has asked me, he's 97, he would prefer to be here instead of me, and I understand why. But he was unable to come because of his 97 years as showing. But he asked me if I would do this, and all the money that this generates this next week will be sent to help pay for what's left of the debt for the bill. So, sadly, the story is both timely and hauntingly fearful. The insanity of possible nuclear war, using weapons of far greater destruction than Little Boy or Fat Man, is possible. The world would become a nuclear wasteland. So when we celebrate the Eucharist in prayer